Mm, no, I wouldn't make assumptions about the in terms of the machine. The, mm, right now, how can I explain this? um, so, in terms of how I feel about the whole thing, uh, I'm kind of mad at Nintendo and a subset of gamers. Now, this is because of the pricing. The general consensus is that the console at 450 is fine. I agree with it. There's there's a lot of consoles now going between 400 and 500, and the PS5 Pro is going 700. Okay, so there's nothing to complain about for a 450 portable system that's got the got the current it's at least the PS4 level tech. Okay, the games is the other issue. All right, and this is where I'm pissed off on both sides of the camp. All right, and I want to start off with the fans first before I go after Nintendo. All right, how many YouTubers who are posting up the "I'm boycotting Nintendo, don't buy a Nintendo" video purchase Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch and paid the $25 DLC that for that? When you add Nintendo has not reduced the price on that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Still to this day, right now, it is still $60, and the DLC is $25. When you put that together, that's $85 for a 12-year-old port from Wii U. I don't believe that they should be complaining about that if they were willing to pay it. Because I'm looking at those, especially those who are like into Nintendo, who are like Nintendo centric. They're sitting there talking about, the price of the games, I don't like it. And it's like, you have a gigantic library behind you on that screen of every Nintendo Switch game you purchased. And I've no doubt that when you bought that, you paid $60 for that Wii U port called Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, along with the $25 for that DLC. You had no problem doing that. But $80 is a bridge too far. You get what I'm saying? And you're telling your viewers, your fans, that Nintendo is dogging us, dogging all the gamers out there. You know what I'm saying? That they're being, crazy about it. Yeah, yeah. But that's the thing. But this is why I find disingenuous. But regular people, the regular viewers who are being frugal with their money, who are being responsible with their money, who don't like DLC and avoiding all of that, I'm not mad at their opinions. I think their opinions are valid when they say they don't like the $80 because I know where they're coming from. I've been there back in the 90s. But the YouTubers and any fan who spent $60 for the core and then paid all that extra DLC that goes upwards to $100 should not be screaming bloody murder on an $80 cartridge from Nintendo. If you were willing to pay that money, especially if you're a YouTuber with money, with that income you get from the ads and everything, you should not be complaining and making videos calling for boycotts and such. Forza, the core set is $60, and then if you buy all this DLC, it comes out to over $120 total. How many people paid that money? And then they're gonna sit there and say, "Oh, the $80 for Mario Kart World is ridiculous. What's Nintendo thinking?" It's like, what the, But isn't it more than just one game? Yeah, it's not that. People are okay with $60. That has been video games have been $50 to $60 since PS2, and everybody's been fine with that. The consumer market has the right to be mad. the YouTubers should not be mad. I'm not mad at it because not only did I decide to double dip on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and buy the DLC, but I also bought the Wii U version when I had the Wii U. I still have the Wii U, but when I had the Wii U, I did pick up Mario Kart 8 and the DLC to play it. Then I decided to double dip for the show and get the DLC because I wanted to cover the DLC. So that's why I'm not complaining on my end about the price. Screaming boycott, boo, Nintendo. I'm not doing any of that. You know what I'm saying? If I was willing to pay that $85, and that means I'm willing to pay $80. You know what I'm saying? But the consumer market does have a legit complaint because, like I said, I've been there before. You know what I'm saying? Back in the 90s, when I wasn't when YouTube wasn't even a thing, and I was a teenager, and and I had to get a job and make money and everything, and I looked at those crazy $70 to $80 prices on those Super Nintendo cartridges and N64 cartridges, my brain was like, until Sony was able to bring those costs down. And because Nintendo decided to stay on cartridge and got burned for doing that and went to discs, they had to charge their games at $50 and $60, and it felt right. Everybody was fine with the $60 price tag, the $50 price tag, and it had been that way until now. And so the average consumer, the consumer market being angry about it, I completely understand, because to me, having seen Nintendo get away from charging $70 to $80 just to go back to charging $80, that pisses me off. Because, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to go through that experience again. You know what I mean? And I don't want to see consumers go through that, you know what I mean? Where they want to get something awesome like Mario Kart World, but then they can't afford the $80. That's not easy. So I understand the regular average consumer. I just don't understand why these YouTubers and Twitchers and all that content creators are screaming bloody murder when they spent oodles of money. I'm like, why? Honestly, I wasn't expecting much with the Switch 2. Before I get to that part, to what you're saying there. Let me tell you why I'm mad at Nintendo. Alright? I'm mad at Nintendo because they're regressing. They're going back to their bad how you say practices. Because back in the 80s and 90s, when Nintendo had the NES and the Super NES, you know what I'm saying? Their only big competition. They had no competition in the 80s with the NES. And their big competition was Sega Genesis. All the other consoles that came out, Atari XE, the TurboGrafx 16, even the Sega Master System, just didn't have enough to stop Nintendo's drawing power that kids and parents had. And Nintendo took advantage of that and manipulated a lot of the devs, because with the pricing, they really put a big price on the heads with Konami, Capcom, you name it, because you had to get those specialized cartridges from Nintendo, those proprietary cartridges, and they had to do the same on the Super Nintendo. If you want your game on the Super Nintendo, you had to buy those proprietary cartridges, and they were even more expensive because of the Sony sound chips that were embedded in those cartridges. And Nintendo took advantage of that, and it was pissing the industry off. The industry was getting pissed off, and it was coming off monopolistic, like a monopoly. And then on top of that, they're charging $70 on the NES cartridge, $70 to $80 on the Super NES cartridge, making it very hard to get. Unless, of course, you rent it from a video store, which was the only route we had. But if we wanted to own it, we had to pony up $70 to $80. But you see, this is what people don't understand. Nintendo had been resilient. The reason why Nintendo stayed on the cartridge with the N64 was not just because the discs can be pirated. It's because they were making money off of the developers paying money to be able to put their games on those cartridges. That was the scheme. That was the scheme. That was the bad practice scheme that Nintendo pulled off. That's how Nintendo made the money. It wasn't off the sales alone. It was off of getting the companies to fork over manufacturing costs per cartridge. Okay, a lot of people don't know this. You know, a lot of people, nobody knows this, because why is it that Nintendo has been able to have such a firm grip, you know, in the 80s and 90s the way they did, and why so many companies like EA, you know, immediately went to Sega. Yeah, they kept the card on the N64 because it wasn't just only the piracy. It was because they could make money off the cartridge. Okay. That's why the GC was also smaller discs as well. And keep this in mind that the reason why the Sega Dreamcast, had a completely different type of proprietary disc was because they didn't want to pay Sony for their CD disc, because the compact disc, the CD, it's called the compact disc, that's owned by Sony, and Sony makes money off of that. You know, whatever number of discs got to be manufactured, they put money onto the developers. But because it was so cheap, the developers were able to afford those CDs, and the CDs had more than enough room for them to put the amount of content into their games. And when the DVDs happened, the DVDs also belonged to Sony, and they competed with Xbox's CD proprietary discs, Microsoft's proprietary disc, and won out. See, a lot of people don't know this, that the companies are making money off of these things. These little things. Yeah. Yeah. Go on. Let me hit the allow button. Come on. What's going on here? I'm trying. What's going on here? The mic. Ah, crap, it froze? No! It's a monopoly. What's going on here? Why is everything freezing? Okay. Alright, looks like everything froze up. Yes, Mr. Penguin. That's why they reverted back to carts on the Switch. And that's why, if you've read the reports, there was a 32 gig cartridge and a 64 gig cartridge. And the 64 gig cartridge was the most expensive, and was what made it very difficult for AAA companies that wanted to put Doom and what's another good example? Because you notice that they came packaged saying you have to download the rest of the game into the Switch for those cards. That's because those are 32 gig cards. But Nintendo had the 64 gig ones. They did, and the 64 gig ones were too expensive, and the developers did not have the money to pay for for each of those 64 gigs. Hence why they put on the 32 gig and say you gotta download the rest. And Nintendo allowed it. You know, Nintendo allowed it. So that's why I'm mad at Nintendo, because they're back to that bad business practice from the 90s. You know, seeing the cost of that Mario Kart, seeing the cost of Mario Kart World told me everything I needed to know, that they went back to that practice because since they're back on the cartridge, and they got this boldness because who's the only competitor against the Switch? Valve. Others say Rogue, but I never heard of ROG. But Valve is the primary competitor of the Switch, and even though they made good sales, they didn't make 150 million sales by comparison. So Nintendo is back to that attitude again, and that's why I'm mad at Nintendo. You know, they're back to their old ways. Yeah, Steam Deck and Rogue, yeah. And Rogue is not making anything because I never heard of Rogue until people started mentioning it. And Steam Deck still has a ways to go, you know, to be able to get there. But they're not really competing hard on Nintendo here. You know, they're not making a dent. So and because Sony and Microsoft are still doing stationary consoles, Nintendo has no competition. Yeah, Steam Deck isn't even close. You know, it's only good for, you know, for the for people who are well versed in PC and could be able to do modding and manipulation and such. It's very good. You know, it's good on that aspect. But in terms of just going after raw the you know, like raw Nintendo console battle, they're not even close. If they really want to get there, they gotta be willing to you know, step it up, increase their game. Find a damn good marketing campaign to make Nintendo look bad. That's how Sega pulled it off, and that's how Sony pulled it off. Got those W's on Nintendo was the marketing campaigns. Because right now, Nintendo with the hybrid console market, they have no competition, and they can price gouge now. They can price gouge now, and you know they can. They could, and that's why they created that red cart. What do they call it? The cart key. That's why the cart key exists, just to satisfy the AAA publishers. They'll be like, okay, if you can't afford the 32 gig or the 64 gig, we'll do the card key. The very thing that everybody screamed bloody murder about when Xbox tried to pull that off the 2 generations ago. During the PS when the PS4 was like announced, the Xbox One. There we go. You know what I'm saying? When they announced the Xbox One, everybody went bloody murder. So Nintendo's like, okay, don't worry, don't you worry. You could be able to fit your Grand Theft Auto 6 and its 120 gig sized game just by using this red little card. It'll be a little cheaper for you, while the consumers get screwed over with a key card. You know, Nintendo's figured it out. They figured it out. Okay, that cloud that they were putting on the Switch, Kingdom Hearts 3 cloud, the Resident Evil remake on the cloud, the Plague Tale cloud, that was a test. That was a test to see how people would respond. You know, to get the current gen game on the Switch. You know, they were poking, they were doing like the Velociraptors in Jurassic Park when they were testing the electric wires. They were just pumping and touching at poking at every little hole. Yeah, exactly. And that's what Nintendo wants, because if you go digital, they get 100% the profits. And the AAA publishers would love that too, because they'll get 100% of the profits. They'll only have to pay a small nominal fee just to be in the eShop, and then they get all the profits. That's been what these video game companies been trying to do. They've been trying to go digital because they could get 100% of the profits. They don't have to they only have to pay a small fee just to put it into a service, and that's it. Instead of paying exorbitant prices for discs and cartridges. Nintendo knew what they were doing. They've been poking and prodding for since the Wii channel. They've been poking and prodding since the Wii channel. Yep. Physical gets punished. Physical collectors get punished. Which way did I go for? Okay, I saw the statue. Yeah, physical collectors get punished. That's why I'm so mad at Nintendo, because they went back there. Is there any other hybrids, Steam Deck handhold only? I don't know of any others beyond Steam Deck and Rogue. Nintendo right now has control. So unless Microsoft and Sony goes hybrid to challenge Nintendo, Nintendo's going to have a full-on monopoly again, and they're going to be continuing, and they're going to resume their bad practices from the 90s and 80s, because who wants to spend $700 for a stationary console that doesn't even come with a disc drive? Sony and Microsoft, they're paying attention. That's why they haven't announced a new console yet. They're trying to see how we respond. We, the consumers, respond. They're waiting very patiently because everybody's been saying, "When's the PS6? When's the PS6?" They're holding out. Yeah, $700 is insane. They freaking. We're going back to the '90s. The Neo Geo costed the same amount, and their cartridges were clocking in at over 100. Just to get the authentic arcade experience. So many consoles were going at such ridiculous, and Sony won out because all they did was walked up on the podium and said $299.99 and walked off as their price point for the Sony PlayStation, while everybody else was it $299? He said $199 or $299, whatever the price was. He said one of those two prices, and that was it. It changed the entire landscape. Now Sony and yeah, Neo Geo was that much in the 90s. Yeah, it was that much in the 90s. Nobody's doing their history. That's why I'm getting mad at the YouTubers, because they're not reading the history. They're clearly not reading the history. They're not reading the history. They're not seeing what's going on. That's why they don't. It's like nobody wants to read up on history. Well, it's not even so much history. Let me change that. The problem is not the history. It's that the writers of history are hiding the stuff. The ones who are writing the history, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, they're hiding they're hiding all the business practices. They're hiding the history of their business practices is the problem. And the media is playing into it. Let's see, I was going up this way. Dang it. Nobody. Yeah. It's not. You see, the thing is that you just gotta look at the patterns, the business patterns. Not just only read. You gotta read up, but also look at the. Observe the patterns. Nobody was paying attention to why it was that Nintendo launched the Switch in March. Why Nintendo launched the Switch in March, which was a very unusual month to do a launch. Usually, you would do a launch, either during the holiday, on the holidays, around the holidays. That's usually the common time to do it, to do a launch, in the time of the holidays. But Nintendo didn't do that. Nintendo didn't do that with the Switch. And why is that? Because March is their fiscal year, where their investors get briefed on what's been going on with the state of Nintendo's business practices and such, the sales and everything. And because that Wii U was such a big burn, to the investors, Nintendo had to calm them. They had to calm them down. So here's how the fiscal year works. Okay, because the thing that people don't understand is that you have the calendar year, which is January through March. The fiscal year is the year of your investment, of your company's investment. Sort of like the New Year's Day of your investment. So let's say March 1st is the start of your fiscal year. That's your new year. Your fiscal's new year. And from March 1st all the way to February 28th, all your stats of sales are tracked from March until February, not January through December, but March through February. So you have all that compiled, and you have your stats, your your sales charts, what games were released, all that stuff. Okay, and then you present it to the investors, and you tell them this is what happened in the fiscal year. This is the gains we got. This is where the losses are at. This is where the people are interested in everything. So by putting the Switch in March, by releasing the Switch in March, the start of their fiscal year, they have a full 12-year track of how the Switch is moving. A perfect 12-year track of how the Switch is moving. So when they go to their investors meeting in March for their fiscal year report, their annual report, they have a perfect lineup of showing how the Switch worked from start to finish. And they were able to give their sales projections and everything. This is what calmed the investors down. That's what got the investors to calm down and stop screaming for Nintendo to go third party. And because this hybrid console is one of a kind, because none of that existed, none of that existed. Not the way that Nintendo did it. Nintendo had been doing this, had been prepping this for years. A lot of people don't realize Nintendo had been poking and prodding this for years. But Nintendo, that's how Nintendo tracked. That's how Nintendo tracked. Every March. So they knew. You're muted? No? Uh-oh, I'm muted? Oh no, I'm muted. How am I muted? Testing, 1 2 1 2. Am I too far? Am I too close? Let me see here. My microphone is on. Let me see here. Oh no. I'm gonna try again. Testing, 1 2 1 2. You sure you didn't hit mute? Ah, okay. Must be buffering. I must have been buffering. Well, you can hear me now because you're. I guess you can hear me now. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Hello, hello. Why am I cut off? Everything is fine. Okay. Oh, good. Okay. That was weird. See that was Nintendo. They know. They're watching. They're watching me and they're like, "Uh-oh, he's telling the truth." They are always watching. How do you think they get all those people, on the internet? Oh, I see you're playing our music. Strike. So that's how that's why they set the Wii U up they did with the fiscal year. Crap, I went this way. The emulated people, yes, they're like the emulated people are acting up again. Release the lawyers. Let's see if I can run. I gotta get out of this dungeon. I already did the thing and I gotta save the game. Send him to prison. 10 years. Straight dungeon. No trial. Crap, it's gonna be a big one, huh? A big group. So yeah, yeah, that's Nintendo in a nutshell. And the thing is, it seems like they've been striving for this for years, starting with the Game Boy Advance and the GameCube, having connected to the whole thing. they were trying to figure that out, how to pull something like that. It's sad. It is sad. It's horrifically sad. They've been at this for so long. You know, it's sad. And we got this. Oh, I already went through here. Oh, I didn't go through that one. I see it. Crap. Yeah. You know. You know, it takes a lot of really puts things in. Yeah, it does. It does. You know. Oh yeah, I came through here. What? Ah, I can't find my exit. I can't find the way out. This is crazy. This is crazy. So, yeah, you know, that's why, you know, it's usually hard to, you know, listen to the internet, because they don't do a strong enough research. Like, it's not so much that they don't do the research. It's that they don't look at the little things. You know, they don't ask the questions that needs to be asked. Like, they're asking questions, but they're not asking the right question. They're just asking the internet questions, the outrage questions. But they don't ask the questions like, why did Nintendo release the Nintendo Switch in March at instead of the holiday season? You know, those are the questions that need to be asked. So now the question is, why do they put it in June? Why is it being released in June rather than the holiday season, or as close to the holiday season as possible? Well, very simple. How many months is June to December? Is July to December? That's 6 months. You know what happens? You know what they do every 6 months? An investor meeting. They do a small investor meeting every 6 months in the first 6 months of the fiscal year, and then they do the main one. So now they're gonna do 6 month tracking, and it's not difficult. Nintendo has to make these investor meetings public. They're available on the internet. They're all available. I covered it myself. You'll find one of my videos covering the investor meeting, and I'm reading off the whole thing. You know, one of their investor press releases, and you'll see. You know, if you read the investor meetings, then you really get to see and get an idea of exactly how they're running everything. And then it starts to make sense why they time the releases the way they time it. And I don't think they're doing that. The YouTubers are doing that. Because believe me, if everybody does that, you really get to see just exactly how Nintendo's operating. Ah, I finally made it. Yes. Hurry to town so I can save. Let me save, heal, and then I'll go see the old man, just so that way I could wrap this arc up. Dang. You know, take the Coqui-san the case. Yeah. You know, and not just Nintendo, you know, also Sony's and Microsoft's. You know, you gotta watch those. You gotta check out the you know, you gotta read those reports. You know? So, yeah, Nintendo's back to their old ways. That's why I'm mad at them. I'm not, you know, I'm not mad at the console, and I'm not mad at the average consumer. You know, the YouTubers are and their outrage, and that's why I'm also mad at the YouTubers, because they don't read the financial reports. They don't read, you know, the investor meeting reports to see what Nintendo's doing. So them screaming, "We gonna boycott because of the prices," it's more to it than just that. Yeah, yeah, and I had already noted in my Switch 2 arc right now that I'm posting up. I already had noted that I'm not in a rush to buy this console. I don't have incentive right now because the Switch is satisfying all my needs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm already satisfied. I'm satisfied with what's on offer here. Let me get to where you were. Mm. Yeah, let's see. You said I'm honestly okay with the prices as well. I was just hoping for something a little different from Switch. Yeah, it's a little upgraded, but it just isn't the Nintendo wow factor. Yeah, I'll explain to you why again, people people are not paying attention to why the Switch is the way it is. Okay, because you gotta go through the history. You gotta go through Nintendo's history. Okay, so now that I say I could stop here. Well, hold on. I wanted to go to the old man because I unlocked the dang thing. Went through all this trouble to get to that dang statue and getting out. But I saved, so it's good. But here's the reason why Nintendo Switch was designed the way it was designed. Okay, and this was of their own doing. All right, Nintendo has always had violent video games. All right, they've always had it since the NES. Okay, they've always had it since the NES. And contrary to people screaming, Nintendo's kitty, they don't understand the history of why that is, because that was of their own doing. They did that to themselves. All right, and it starts off with the Rob. In order for back in 1983, I was extremely young kid, so to me, I wasn't paying any attention to the industry, the politics, or anything. I had an Atari 2600. I enjoyed the games, playing with my cousins. That's all I cared about because I was a little kid. What I didn't know, being that I was a little kid, was that there was a little issue in the industry that Atari 2600 was committing bad practices. They weren't giving credit to the programmers and developers, and they weren't doing any quality control checks on the video games that were getting released. So, E.T. Oh, Van, well done. You succeeded in reviving Goddess Serum. You've grown up so fast. You remind me of the young Gollum. Annie, my dear, please leave us alone. Yes, sir. Van, I'm glad you received my instructions so patiently. I know you wanted to leave as soon as possible to save Laura. Yes, indeed. Darva, Van, you have mastered the basics of sorcery. I did? How? To complete your skills, you need to condition your mind. But all I was doing was just slashing the sword. I barely used any of my spells. How did I master sorcery? Controlling your desires. My last wish is that you use your power to relieve the suffering of others. Last wish? I have yet to do anything. You barely acted as Obi-Wan to me. Don't look so sad. Though I regret leaving this world with you so green. My days grow short. Here, this may help you in the future. There is a woman in an egg. Stone of Nullity taken. And 500 gold. Well, thank you. I have opened the way for you to enter the northern continent. Go now! Stop yelling at me! Yeah, it looks like we're going to be coming back to this one later in the game. Alright, so let me save up and close out. So, as I'm doing this... Oh, are you coming with me? I cannot go with you. Dang it! I lost another party member. I must stay here. Darwin needs someone to look after him. I agree, Annie. Take good care of him. Oh, please hurry back. I was expecting voice acting. Please hurry back after beating Gollum. Promise me, okay? Are you sure you don't want to go? And by the time you return, I'll be a great sorceress. Gotcha. But seriously, you sure you don't want to join me? I could use all the help. fan. By the time you return, I'll be a great sorceress. Stop yelling at me. Okay. All right. So the reason why the Switch was designed goes all the way back to Rob. So 1983, video game crashed in North America. No store, Toys R Us, KB, and otherwise wanted to sell video games anymore because they got burned. They got burned hard by Atari's idiotic practices. So, how did Nintendo manage to get the Nintendo Entertainment System into the stores? Well, it was very simple. They did a test market launch with a deluxe set that featured Rob. They told FAO Schwartz in New York City that it's a toy, a kid's toy. It wasn't a video game system. No. It's a kid's toy. So FAO Schwartz let them do the test market in New York City. It was received well, and they were able to convince all of the toy stores, from Toys R Us to KB, so on, that it's a toy, not a video game system. They agreed. They picked it up and scooped up Nintendo, and were selling Nintendo's black box games. Yes, a toy. Because none of them was going to sell a video game console anymore. They did not want to get ramshackled the way Atari did to them. I'm going verbatim, but that's the gist of it. So Nintendo had to convince them that because Rob is a toy, it's a toy for children. And they they nodded and agreed, and they sold it until they realized, oh, it really is a video game console, because what was the call that the action set only had no longer had the Rob packaged in, but Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. By then it was already too late because everybody figured out it was a video game system, and everybody loved it, and the toy stores. The toy stores bought into it, said, I was like, okay, you know what? We got the sales out of it. We got a console. We're selling video games now, again. Okay. But that's the seed that to which the Nintendo is Kitty got planted, because Nintendo had to lean in on the kids. That's why a lot of their advertising, you see children with adults. Okay. Now, yes, Atari did the same thing. It is true that that Atari did the same thing in their marketing, but they didn't emphasize the children the way Nintendo did. Like, Atari didn't create toys, blankets, and stuff. And when they did all that side merchandising of their of Mario and Link and all the other Nintendo characters, those were targeted to children. More so than the adults, and that's why a lot of adults, parents, saw it as something for their children, and that stayed throughout the whole thing. This is where Sega was able to pull off their Nintendo campaign, because they depicted Mario as being something for a kid, because that's how Nintendo was marketing it, and that Sonic was something for teenagers because he was radical, and teenagers, now much more mature, don't want to be called children. They want to be seen as teenagers. Even the preteens, the 10 to 12-year-olds, didn't want to be called kids. They didn't want to be told that they're childish little children, grow up. So they Sega played into that perfectly well with that Nintendo campaign. And Nintendo, and the best that Nintendo could do to push back on the Genesis was to push the power of the Super Nintendo, the graphics power and the sound power, all that sound chips and everything. But Nintendo didn't exactly come out the gate very strong, Super Nintendo, because the Genesis was just kicking everyone's butt. I mean, they completely obliterated the TurboGrafx 16, and that's a whole other story with what NEC did. Because they could have won the war before Sega even got the Genesis out, but that's a whole side story. So, and keep in mind, as I said, Genesis does what Nintendo was such a badass commercial. It was such a badass commercial. Yeah, it really was. It really was. They did a great job on that. They did a great job on that. And but bear in mind this, that Nintendo was still releasing violent video games. You know, very violent video games on the NES and the Super NES. Okay. Very, 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 very violent video games. You know, games that came from video games that were based on R-rated movies like RoboCop and Rambo were on the NES. Super Nintendo, that had let's see, which I'm trying to think of a good example. I wouldn't say Castlevania. It was something else. Like the third parties were taking care of that. Were taking care of that side. They're taking care of that side with the violent video games. Freddy Krueger, yes, Freddy Krueger, Friday the 13th. Kids were getting killed. Saying kids were legitimately getting killed in such games. But the point is that Nintendo's always had violent video games. But what Nintendo shot themselves in the foot was when Mortal Kombat came out. And the dumbest thing that Nintendo ever did was when the United States Senate held a hearing on violent video games. And Howard Lincoln at the time was one of the top executives representing Nintendo. And he sat there before Congress and said that Nintendo would never ever sell a violent video game. So here comes Mortal Kombat. What did Nintendo do? They nerfed Mortal Kombat and removed all the blood, gore, and fatalities. What did Sega do? They said, we removed the blood, the gore, and all the fatalities, and you can access it with a code that we are providing within this box. Guess what? Where everybody went? Everybody went right to Sega because they wanted the blood, the guts, and the fatalities. And what did everybody started saying? Nintendo is kiddie. Nintendo caters to children. And what did Nintendo immediately do in the wake of that? They the first game I saw that was violent in the wake of all that was True Lies, based on Arnold Schwarzenegger's movie, rated T, featuring guns, shooting bad guys with blood splurting out. Nintendo backtracked so hard, man. Nintendo backtracked, but it was too late because they shot themselves in the foot by telling Congress, and it's you can find the video, just look it up because it was on television, it was televised, and you can find the video on YouTube. You'll see Howard Lincoln saying to Congress that they would not do violent video games. And they stood by it and they got burned. Meanwhile, Sega not only did they put the code in for Mortal Kombat, but they created their own rating system identical to the Motion Picture Association of America's rating system. The rated G, the rated PG, the rated R. Sega came up with that and put that on their boxes, and they told parents, this is our rating system, and this will tell you which age is appropriate for this game. So now parents were happy because now they can monitor, the parents who were complaining about the violent video games were happy. The parents who don't care, just want their kids to be quiet, didn't give a rat's ass if Mortal Kombat had blood, as long as it kept their kids sitting in front of the TV with their mouths shut while they took care of their bills, while they took care of the bills and cook food, But the ones who were clutching their pearls and say, "Oh my God, think of the children," were very happy with that. And then that's when we got the ESRB. The ESRB, so that there would be, so that the industry can rate the cartridges and tell the pearl clutching morons to calm their hormones. So that's how the rating system started. Yeah, that's how the rating system started. That's how the rating system started. That's how the eating system started. Yep. Look at that. Oh. Now this is a tasty game box. Yeah. Well, I used I said Mortal Kombat, but Night Trap was the other game that sparked the all the moral panic and everything. I was like, oh my gosh, man. Have you not seen what was put in the arcades back in the 80s? You all played it. You all played those. Let's see. Wow, this is gonna be funny when I post this one up. Cosmic Fantasy 2. So yeah, that's how Nintendo got stigmatized with the Nintendo's Kitty. They shot themselves in the foot. And you know what Nintendo did? They leaned into it. Yeah, compared to now that compared to that, yeah, the gore is nothing. Yeah, the gore is nothing. I mean, it's animated gore. You know, it's animated gore. Didn't make the kids violent. Mm. But yeah, Nintendo leaned into that. You know, they did lean into it. They still allowed companies to release, violent games. I mean, just look at the GameCube. They had Resident Evil 4. They even published Eternal Darkness. It's an M-rated game, classic. You know, so Nintendo never gave up on the violent video games. It's just that they shot themselves in the foot and left the stigma. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. No, like a little GTA and go shoot a stripper, no lawsuit on that. Yeah, Lamau. Exactly, exactly. Hell, the first GTA was put on the Game Boy Advance. The first GTA game when it was just a top down game before they went full 3D. You know, uh, Nintendo did lean into it. Nintendo did lean into it. Even though they did groundbreaking things like because the N64 did have plenty of M-rated games, and they even let Rare, when they owned Rare, when they were owning Rare, they did let them do Conker's Bad Fur Day, which is rated M, and whoo boy, full of all sorts of nasty stuff, man. It was crazy, you know. And then Resident Evil games. Crazy how that works at the start of something. There's always dumb rules and regulations. Yeah, yeah, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It's always dumb when rules and regulations start stepping in, you know. But how you say, Nintendo has always been allowing M-rated games on their consoles, on their consoles, you know. But but their next F up was really the Wind Waker. You know, that one was like the nail in the coffin. Yeah, they should have said that. They may not like it, but you know what? They should have dumped that on the parents. Nintendo's not responsible for other people's children. You know, the parents are the ones who have the money, not the kids. That's something that drives me nuts with these activists. They forget that kids are not adults. They don't have jobs. Okay? Their jobs is mowing the lawn, and they get a couple of dollars out of it, untaxed and not put into unemployment. It's the mom and dads who do that. And the mom and dads, for the most part, don't really care what the game content is. All they care is that their kids sit down and be quiet for a couple of hours while they take care of dinner and pay the bills. That's all the parents want to do. That's all they want, is for their kids to just sit down. You know. But yeah, Nintendo screwed up with the Wind Waker because and what happened was that They did. They showed a tech demo. I forgot if it was Space World or CES, but they announced. But when they announced the GameCube, they showed the Legend of Zelda. A tech demo of Legend of Zelda, Link taking on a giant Goma, but it was adult Link fighting a Goma. Yes, that's how moms were in the 80s. They're like, take a chill pill so I could go smoke and don't talk to strangers. That's it. That's it. That was the mom's attitude. As long as you don't talk to strangers, leave me alone. Go out into the forest and play. Go out to the forest and play. Just don't talk to strangers. Don't go with strangers. Don't listen to strangers. Run away from strangers. That's it. No, it's true. Many suburbanite kids will tell you, yeah, we used to go into the forest and play and do all kinds of stuff. Us urban kids were just going out to where all the dumped crack pipe bottles were at. I should really stop this before the system gets messed up. Let me do this little sound off. All right, let me do this little sound off so I can shut this off because this is a hypersensitive system. It's very, very old. All right, so I finally got this all done. Got the statue, talked to the old man, lost another party member. So now it's time for the next destination. Where it is, I don't know. It's probably to get up to the northern continent, northern part of the continent. So we'll have to see what happens. But overall, fun watching me sleep gaming as always. So head on over to Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com and grab yourself a copy of The Impossible Man, a strange fantasy novel written by me. You'll find links to the book down in the description below, along with links to other merch such as pins, stickers, t-shirts, music. Enjoy the products. Thank you for your patronage. And if you purchased a copy and did a YouTube video on my book, thank you very much. I look forward to hearing your analysis. And if you're interested, you could join me on my live multi-stream on Twitch and Kick every Monday through Thursday, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I play video games, do culture studies, and many other things. I look forward to hanging out with you. So until the next round of Cosmic Fantasy 2, I thank you all for joining me, and I wish you all a good night. Buenas noches, and oyasuminasai. There we go. That's going to be one heck of an edit because the whole conversation was going on. Got that whole conversation, and dang, people saw the secret of why my Cosmic Fantasy 2 is floating here. Let me turn this off. Oh, yeah, here we go. Thank you. Here we go. Let's turn this off. There we go. Go Revic CD. Here we go. Just so everybody could see that. The Impossible Man is a comedy fantasy set in our modern times. Our titular hero, the Impossible Man, became famous in Japan for running an anime and manga shop, and suddenly problems come his way, and now he is getting help from his employees to keep him out of trouble and keep trouble away from him as he tries to maintain his store and not have it fall apart. It is a very funny comical book, very heavily influenced in anime. If you watched anime, you'll see all the nice beats. It's has a good outlook of Japanese culture and American culture. It's a very, very funny comedy. Very, very heavily influenced from 90s anime. We've seen 90s anime comedy particularly. You'll see all the nice beats that came out of it. All the good story beats. It gets some sales at times. Let's switch over to here. Yep. So you'll find the links down below here on my live multi-stream. Right down below, all the links are available. Available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Let's see, where is talk time? Here we go. There we go. Let's switch that over so people know we're having talk. Yes, you love anime, then you'll love The Impossible Man. If you're familiar with all the beats and tropes, you will love it. You'll love it. It's a fun read. So, yeah, let's continue on with why Nintendo is called Kitty. I love having these these little history lessons here. So yeah, I think it was either Space World or CES, and Nintendo had a tech demo out for the GameCube, where you saw Adult Link take on Goma, and it was like hyper, like big time, how you say, shoot, you know what? I gotta, the best way I can explain this is if I can show this. I hate the single screening when I go into the YouTubes here. Let me pull this up. Zelda demo. Let's see here. Here it is. Yep, Space World 2000. Here we go. Let me pull this up here. I'll just mute that so it doesn't blow up. Here we go. Let's see. View screen. No, I gotta switch out. All right, hold on. Let me switch this out because I gotta now start doing Exhibit A and Exhibit B so everybody can understand what I'm talking about. Hold on. This won't take long. I'm right around here. And I'm right over here. You see, I'm right over here. Here we go. Yeah, I was supposed to do my rewrites right now of my latest novel, but it's 5 a.m. I got the whole weekend ahead of me, so I was gonna do it live, but it's all right. I got the whole weekend ahead of me. In fact, I had to switch this over to do that. In fact, I may as well just pull it up since I'm pulling everything up. But I need some sleep so badly. Here we go. So let me pull this up. Okay. Because this needs to be. It's got to be shown. Okay. So this is the Space World tech demo on the GameCube. All right. So it seems like they upscaled it. AI upscale. Oh no. No. We don't want trickery. Here we go. No, that's the Wii U demo. No, where's the? Wow, that's the only video that has the Space World tech demo. Okay, here we go. And this one is not messed around with. All right, cool. Here we go. All right. Oh gosh, that's 11 seconds. No. Where's the? Dang. Also, I got the wrong one. That was the Wii U, the one with the Goma. Sorry, that was the Wii U one. That was the Goma. This was the one where he fought Ganon. I got that mixed up. My apologies. Oh no, he got it wrong. Discredit him. His words hold no meaning. Yeah, this is the 29-second one. We'll have to do the upscale one. So, here we go. Alright. Because this is the full video. So, this is what it looked like. This is how Nintendo presented it in Space World for the Nintendo GameCube. Oh, I see. They downscale. Okay, he's... Alright, so he's switched in between the two. Yeah, it looks awesome, doesn't it? Yeah, so that's what they presented. So when they formally announced the new the new Zelda game, this is what they gave us. Guess what they gave us? That is insane. Yeah, that's not Wind Waker. Everyone thought that was gonna be the Zelda, in that Space World Tech demo. But Nintendo comes over and says, "Here's the new Zelda game," and it's Wind Waker, and everybody was livid. The internet was still young, and everyone in the game stores were livid. They were livid, and everybody was like, "Oh, Nintendo's kitty," because PlayStation 2 was happening at the same time, and games like Grand Theft Auto was coming out. Okay, games like Grand Theft Auto was coming out. You know, Final Fantasy on the PlayStation 2, Gran Turismo, the fighting games. Nintendo had GameCube had more power than anything else than this PS2, and they give us this Zelda. They didn't give us the Space World Zelda. And so now you have teenagers, older teenagers, and 20-somethings, 20-year-olds, these 20-year-olds, okay, who got past the NES and the Super NES and the whole kiddie stigma. Right? They're a lot more older. Yeah, Metal Gear, that stuff. And they're playing Metal Gear. They're playing 13. They're playing Final Fantasy. Okay? Who are the main characters? Adults. Okay? People grew up. Alright? And when they saw Adult Link, they felt the same thing too. Adult Link, I'm an adult. Connect. Then all of a sudden, here's this kid Link in cartoonish form. Turned everybody off. And Nintendo went into panic mode, because that panic mode was Twilight Princess. Twilight Princess was panic mode, because they realized, oh, these gamers are not kids anymore. They're not children. Oh, they were expecting Space World Link. Oh. And that's how we got Twilight Princess. It's common sense. They reacted very much to that. But it was already too late. The stigma once again slapped on their backs. And then and the GameCube was already failing at that point, because the PlayStation 2 was just too dang powerful. Yeah, it was literally a different game. Everyone thought that was a sequel to Ocarina of Time, because this was the same character assets. Ganon and Link looked exactly like they were in Ocarina of Time, and everyone thought that was going to be the sequel. Everyone thought that was going to be the sequel, and instead we ended up with a cartoonish anime Link. The game is still great. People love the Wind Waker now, but back then you were dealing with 20-year-olds and older teens that had grown past the Yoshis. They grew past the Yoshi games. They grew past the Marios and the Yoshis. They wanted the Metal Gears and the Resident Evils. Yeah. He was on the PS2 wave. Yeah. That's what happened. Then Satoru Iwata got became the top dog, and introduced us to Wii. They introduced us to the Wii. Iwata, and of course the DS, but we got introduced to the Wii. Now, Iwata and Reggie Fils-Aimé did a great job selling the innovation. They did a great job selling the innovation. There was just one little problem, and that is that they chose not to fight power with power. Basically, it was still the GameCube upgraded. A lot of people forget that you know the GameCube is inside that Wii. That's why you could play the GameCube system, and they had all four GameCube sockets on the side. You know, here, no, here. Here we go. There we go. So yeah, basically it was just an upgraded GameCube with motion controls. Look familiar? Those are that's for the GameCube controllers. That was for the GameCube controllers. So even though they went disc and everything, you know, saying it was able to play the GameCube discs, and you could put, and then you just attach the GameCube just like that. You bet you still have both. Never see that. That's because I take care of my consoles. I take care of them to the best of my ability. You know, when you love gaming, you take care of your consoles to the best of your ability. You know, always, always. You know. So yeah, so now we got so now you know we got the GameCube. All right, so now we have GameCube 2 called the Wii. All right, now they're what 2 generations behind because the PlayStation 3 comes out with a $600 console. People forget that the PlayStation 3 came in at $600. Always have gone secondhand, so so some of mine are rough. Yeah, that's understandable. That's because the Wii was sold to children. Yes, yes. People forget that the PlayStation 3 clocked in. What is it? Let me see. PS3. The first model. How much was the first model? It was 600, if I remember correctly. A lot of people were pissed off. Let's see here. Yep. PS3 received mixed reception due to its high price point, $599 for a 60 gig model and $499 for a 20 gig model. Yeah, people were pissed off. They were pissed off. You know, that's why anybody complaining about the 450 price tag of the Switch 2 is ridiculous. You know, they forget these things. They forget these things. You know? They forget these things. And then it didn't even help that what's his name said that people will buy a PS3 because they'll get a second job. The disconnect. You know, the arrogant disconnect, and they pay, and PS3 paid for that big time because Nintendo went with the innovation, and the Xbox didn't go crazy on the pricing. However, the Xbox couldn't get the support of Japanese developers for the 360, and had to really rely on the Western developers, which they did because they had a very strong, well, being Microsoft, they had a strong online system, you know, so they were able to hold up. Yeah, compared to a barely upgraded PS5 with no drive, I know what I choose. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why I was shocked that that Sony went there with the pricing for that PS5 Pro. It's like, did they learn nothing from PS3? Did they not learn anything from PS3? You know. But Nintendo shot themselves in the foot a third time with the Wii when they held the E3 that one time in the E3 event. Let me see here, E3 Wii Music. Here we go. Yeah, the presentation. You know, 2008. I can get a crazy good PC for 700. Exactly. My PC is still good, and I've had this for 3 years now. This PC, and I didn't even pay that much for it. You know, saying like right around that range. You know, right around that range. Here we go. Let's see, where is it at? Oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of these here. We only need this one. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, let me see if I can find the spot here. Yeah, this is it. Here we go. Yeah. So yeah, Nintendo shot themselves in the foot the third time for a couple of reasons. One, they were underpowered. The Wii was still the GameCube, was still GameCube tech, and the developers moved on to more tech. That's the obvious. That was the obvious one, and they weren't able to put games like Metal Gear Solid 5 or Grand Theft Auto 4 onto the Wii, you know. And the games that they were able to port over, like say Dead Rising, was nerfed completely. Not only that, but Ghostbusters the video game was completely different game built, a completely different built game. You know, it was very cartoony looking compared to the ones on the PS3 and Xbox, which had that look that they have. Then Nintendo did this. Nintendo ended up doing this. And this was basically the last straw with everybody. This is E3 2008. Alright, the Wii is peaked. The Wii is like now like the top dog of the generation. Okay, they're the top dog of the generation. And in this E3, everybody had very high expectations. Nintendo fans had high expectations in terms of what new Nintendo games were going to be put on the Wii. And this is what they did.
Along with our all-star Treehouse horn section.
This is what they introduce.
Everybody ready? Looks like all that's left for me is the cowbell.
Yeah.
Right. Bring the house down, guys.
This was their big game. This was the big game for them. They say this was going to be their big game release. Yeah, 4 grown adults blowing into a remote. Miyamoto don't even look like he's enjoying it either. That's the scary part. I don't see a single smile on his face, and he's keeping his head turned from the camera. Why is Miyamoto not smiling? This is a guy who, when they announced Zelda, raised the remote in the air and had a big smile on his face. And from that point forward, every single game they introduced involved the Mii characters. What was not shown, what everybody wanted to see: Donkey Kong, Kirby, Star Fox, Punch Out, F-Zero, another Mario game, another Zelda game, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart. None of that was shown that year. Nothing of that nature was shown that year. It was just Wii games with Mii characters. And you know what everyone's response was? That literally anything but that. Yes. And you know what their response is? Nintendo's kitty. They don't care about the franchises anymore. Now they're just catering to grandmas and kids. And boy, did Nintendo pull one hell of a 180 the next year, when they announced new Kirby, new Donkey Kong, new Mario Kart, new everything. Like they did not show a single Mii in 2009. It was just nothing but their franchises. Let me see if I could find that. Let me see if I could find that comic. Let's see, E3 2009 comic. Let's see if I can find it. This was such an excellent thing there. Was it this one? No, wasn't this one. It was such a good comic. Let's see here, E3 comic. Here we go, E3 comics. Yes, here it is. Is this the one? No, but this is similar. Yeah, let me pull this up. Complete with a 180 in a good way. Yes, yeah. But by then it was already too late. You know, it was already too late. Nobody, you know, only let me see here. Was it this one? No. Dang. Because it summed it up nicely. That's funny. We would like to toast. You know, like bread and stuff. Quiet, quiet, quiet. Did we mention it has the Nintendo brand on it? Has to have what? I'll take the money. Yeah, that's Nintendo fans in a nutshell. Where is that? But where is that E3 comic? It was so good. It was so good because it summed up the E3 that year. Because in 2009, if I remember correct, that was when Sony and Microsoft introduced the Move and the Kinect to respond to the motion controls. And everybody was like, why? Everybody had the why factor. It's like, why are you chasing this? Nintendo at that point was slowly phasing away from motion controls. It was starting to phase away from motion controls. Let's see here. E3 2009. Comic strip. Let me try strip. Because that was the year that Nintendo came out and was like, yeah, we got Nintendo, we got Kirby, we got Donkey Kong, we got all this. It was a let's see, that's E3 2013. No, that's not the one. Wow, I think it's lost forever. I think it was from these guys here. Penny Arcade, yeah. Yeah, it was Penny. Okay, Penny Arcade. Let me type Penny Arcade. They were the ones that came up with this. LOL, all Connect games are like $1 to $3 now. Yeah, they were all $1 to $3. It was so horrible. Let's see here. Now, there's a lot of Penny Arcade comic strips, but where's the one where they showed the three executives? You know, they had Reggie Fils-Aimé, Yoshida, what's his name from Microsoft, all making, you know, announcing what they were coming out with. And it summed it up very nicely to what the 180 was. Let's see here. Woof, boy, they released a lot of comics. You know what? Maybe let's see. Let me try. You know what? First of all, I misspelled arcade. Second, let me try Nintendo bitches. There we go. Nintendo bitches. No. E3 consoles. Let's see. Nintendo. Yeah, let's see. Penny Arcade Nintendo. Wow, it was wow, it was such a good comic strip. Because Xbox was like, we have the Kinect, we have Netflix, we have TV remote, and they would have a little speech bubble that would point off the panel. That would be the crowd, and the crowd would be like, "What are the games?" Then they showed a panel of Sony saying, "Yeah, we have the motion controls now. We have these the XYZ," and they're like, Nintendo already did that in the speech bubble. and then there was Reggie Fils-Aimé. Then there was Reggie Fils-Aimé said that just said simply this: we have Kirby, we have new Kirby, we have new Donkey Kong, we have new Star Fox. Nintendo bitches, just like that. I can't believe I can't find it. I could have sworn that Penny Arcade was the one that did that. It was such a good strip, man, because it showed that Nintendo, 180 while the other two chased them, but it still didn't get rid of the stigma of Nintendo's Kitty. And bless Iwata, saying he just wanted to do fun things and such, but he leaned way too hard business wise. He leaned too hard business wise with the blue ocean market. With channeling the kids and the grandmas with the motion controls, and and brought out the Wii U. When the way Reggie Fils-Aimé announced the Wii U was just like, wow. Like, he couldn't even buy into what he was saying. You could really see in the way he spoke that he just couldn't buy into it. Wow, I can't find it. Damn. Could have sworn. Let's see here. If not Penny Arcade, well, it's somebody. Somebody came up with that comic strip. It was so good. Man. Yeah, see, because it was like this. Here. See, it was similar to this. But this is from 2013. We're making some changes for better or for worse. Well, mostly worse for you guys. PlayStation, we're not really changing anything. Thankfully, Microsoft set the bar so low. This is considered big news. And then here's the Nintendo. We're changing so little that all our new games are now remakes or sequels. This is the new Wii U Zelda. You played this. It's already in your house. Boy, they couldn't have. Boy, that aged well. You know what I'm saying? But that's but it was like this. But it was from from the E3, 2009 when Nintendo 180'd because of that debacle. Damn, I think it's lost to time. It is trapped in the dark webs now, but it really sucks, man. But yeah, I mean, bless Iwata's heart, but they announced the name Wii U, which was stupid. Then during the course of the announcements, he introduced Wada Wada Plaza, in which the Mii's walked out on the user interface screen, going hello, me, ma. You know how easily that turned off so many adults who wanted to play Nintendo system, because that was so childish in every way. It was way too childish. And then not only that, but the packaging came out looking like a freaking Leapfrog, like they were selling Leapfrog. Have you ever seen a Leapfrog game package? Let me here we go. Yeah. Is this here we go. Yeah. Here. That's what a Leapfrog package looks like. Here's Yoshi's Woolly World. Yeah, see, look it. And then you have Yoshi's Woolly World. Does not that look like a Leapfrog game? Tell me that does not look like a Leapfrog game. Like something you would see on Leapfrog. Terrible packaging. Very terrible packaging. That it was terrible packaging. So with all that, yeah, of course, a lot of adults saw that as a kiddie system, and saw Nintendo as being kiddie. And yeah, that hurt the sales. Terrible marketing, terrible packaging, poor communication, terrible communication, and so now Nintendo got to look at their investors. Now their investors are sitting, all sitting in the on the table. Iwata was now long gone. He left the world. Bless his soul. You know what I'm saying? But he leaned too hard in that direction. He meant well. He meant well, but he really didn't fully understand what was happening in the market. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knew what he wanted, and I get that. You know what I'm saying? I like that. You know what I'm saying? He didn't want that hardcore, hard gamer market type of thing. You know what I'm saying? For Nintendo. And I respect that. You know what I'm saying? He wanted Nintendo to have its identity. He did not want it to be a clone of Microsoft and Sony. They were already clone of each other. So I get where he was going from. But he needed to finesse that. He needed to finesse it. And unfortunately, he didn't finesse it. He was so sure that the grandmas and the parents were going to, make the leap over into the new console, into the Wii U, that he didn't really understand how they were thinking, He didn't fully understand how they were thinking, especially here in the United States, So it was just unfortunate, you know what I'm saying? But I get where he was coming from. I just think that it was not the right execution. It was poor execution. You know what I'm saying? It was the poor choice. So now Nintendo is sitting there at the investors meeting, and every single one of them has that Mr. Burns scowl. You ever seen the Mr. Burns scowl in on The Simpsons? Let me see here. Let me pull up Mr. Burns, because this is what they look like. Okay, when they're angry. This was the investors. This is what they were all looking like right now. At that point, they're all looking like that. They were all looking at that. Look at. You see that. They were. This dude was shocked that Mr. Burns was pissed off. Waylon Smithers. Yeah, that was the investors, because they lost a lot of money on that. They lost a lot of money on that. And all the head waves. How do you bring back, the older audience when all they saw was Leapfrog? When all they saw was Leapfrog packaging, childish, kiddie packaging. And then and to overcome Sony and Microsoft's we are mature because we make M-rated games mentality. And convince the developers, who laughed. They literally were laughing. I believe it was in Game of Sutra reported that, the devs were laughing at Nintendo. They didn't want to make games for Nintendo, because of that direction they went. I'll have one Leapfrog Yoshi, please. So now Nintendo had to do something. People try to make the excuse saying the Wii U was like a segue. No, Nintendo leaned into it. That was going to be their next gen console, their big next gen console. Okay, they were expecting that to go for a handful of years, not the amount of time that it had. That Switch was a scramble. That Switch was a mad scramble. See, Nintendo's always developing the consoles after the release of the current console. Like, once they release the current console, they're already working on the next console. This is what people don't realize. They didn't just produce the Switch in a year out of their rear ends. They had to spend years going through all sorts of processes, from concept, from proof of concept to finding the parts, finding partners to produce the parts. The Switch was not built in a year. They were building that for quite some time, but it wasn't. But it was never intended to come out when it came out, the year that it came out. They were expecting the Wii U to carry the wave, and it didn't. Okay, it didn't carry the wave. All right, they lost royally, and the investors were pissed off, rightfully pissed off, and they told Nintendo, you better course correct this or go third party, because everybody was screaming, oh, Nintendo's going third party, Nintendo failed, Nintendo's going third party because of the Wii U. Michael Proctor, freaking analyst, economic analyst, was like, yeah, this is the year Nintendo's going third party. Every year he makes that forecast. Every year he made that forecast. And people nodded and agreed, yes, this is the year they're going third party. So now we get the Switch. And what don't we see anymore on the Switch? Wada Wada Plaza. It's sterile, barren, plain. Why? Because they took out all the Nintendoisms. The eShop, why doesn't it have music anymore? They got rid of the Nintendoisms. Okay, Nintendo went to the extreme end. They went over to the extreme end and they're saying we're not kiddie anymore. We're not making kiddie games and a kiddie system. We're not doing a leapfrog. What did their teaser, their trailer? Remember that trailer they did, the Wii U trailer? What did they show? The Switch trailer, the Switch announcement trailer. Who was not in that video? Who was not in that reveal trailer? Who was not in that reveal trailer? Here's the reveal trailer. All right, here's the reveal trailer. Who was not in that reveal trailer? Mario? No, Mario was in the reveal trailer. Who was not in that reveal trailer? I'll let you take one more guess. Who was not in that reveal trailer? You can't remember? Alright, the answer is very simple. Children. There was no children in this reveal trailer. Who was the first person we saw? An adult. Take a good look. That's an adult. Okay. Who's the next set that we see? You see? Grown man with a dog, a house. He has a job. He has a flat screen TV. He pulls out the Switch. Now we're like, oh, this is the hybrid. Walking his dog like a grown adult does. Doing adult things. He's doing adult things and playing the Switch. And what is he playing on the Switch? Zelda. What game is that? That's Zelda. What is it not? Yoshi. It's not Yoshi. It's not even Kirby. It's Zelda. Because adults love Zelda. Who's the next person we see in this airplane? More grown people. Who's the next person we see? A grown woman. A grown woman. Look at that. They're telling women, yes, you too could play the Switch. You, a grown adult woman, who is taking a flight out to possibly see family, your parents, maybe going out on business, you know, or just meet up with some good friends. You could play the Switch too, because it's adult. Okay. Then what do we see later down the line? Another adult playing Zelda. No, he's playing Elder Scrolls. Sorry, he's playing Skyrim. Look at this. 3 adults playing Mario Kart while driving a car. Going out on a party night at a literal cart. Driving at a cart where adults play at. Look at this basketball full of adults. Do you see a kid there? No. And where are they playing? They're playing NBA 2K, an adult game. Sure, lots of kids are playing NBA 2K, of course, but adults also play this. And check this out, an adult woman who rents an apartment. She has a flat screen TV. She has a job, just like the rest of us. Playing Mario. And what does she see? She sees a whole bunch of adults having a party, a rooftop party that children are not invited to because there's alcohol going on. And what did they all do? They played the Switch with her as well. You see the messaging Nintendo's giving here? They're telling everybody they grew the F up. They told them. And then look at this esports. You can make a career. These are adults having a career in esports, and they're playing Splatoon, a kiddie game. and they're going out into arena where they have children as fans that also enjoy Splatoon. That is what Nintendo did. They told the world, we grew up. The Nintendo Switch is for adults, not just for children. So when we all bought the Nintendo Switch for the first time and we booted that up, we were never greeted with a Mii character. We were never greeted to a Wada Wada Plaza where Mii was like hee ha hee ha and running across the whole thing. We weren't greeted with kitty music and kitty sounds. Oh, they still did the Mii, but they hit the Mii. You know, in the top little left corner of that little circle. And you couldn't access the any of the Mii stuff unless you go deep inside the interface. You know, your account settings. Themes? No themes, no folders, none of that stuff you saw on the 3DS. You know, but everybody's like, yeah, we want this stuff, but all of you adults were screaming about Nintendo being kiddie. You wanted Nintendo to grow up, they grew up. You know, I know that it's fair to say, well, they shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but you know what? You joined the bandwagon. You joined the Nintendo's Kitty bandwagon. If you truly believed that Nintendo was mature with that Wii music, then you should have made Wii music $1 million. You didn't. You screamed at Nintendo that that's not what you wanted. And so Nintendo, in the wake of the disaster of the Wii U and their angry investors, grew up. That's why the interface looks so boring. That's why there's no Nintendo music. No Nintendoisms. No nothing on the Switch. Because Nintendo needed to tell the adults that they grew up. That's not a childish system. It's not a kiddie system. They basically acknowledged that Iwata's plan sputtered out. It didn't fail. No, his plan didn't fail. I mean, the Wii would not have succeeded the way it did. But leaning so hard in that direction with the grandmas and the kids hurt Nintendo. It really did hurt Nintendo. You know? And the investors told them, either you grow up or go third party. It's simple enough. It's pretty obvious that's what they told them. And I've no doubt the investors said, you better set a schedule where we could be able to monitor the sales of that Switch, because we're not going to lose money again. Hence why Nintendo released the system in March, which is the start of their fiscal year, and used those 12 months to thoroughly track the progress. Do you think if they market the Wii U the same way, or would have been where the Switch would have been the Switch? Are you saying if they had treated Wii U as more adult than kiddie? That's all right. That's all right. Yeah. So the main problem was the marketing. Because if you saw the marketing for the Wii U, who was the first thing we saw in that reveal? Let me show you. Let me pull up the Wii U reveal. Wii U reveal. Is this the one? Yeah, I think this is the one. Let's see. Who was the... Is this no? This was the one where they were just showing No, this was the one where they showed the pad and said nothing. Let me find one of their commercials. Let me see if I can find one of their commercials. Ah, yes. Oh, this was perfect. Okay, here we go. The very bad Wii U ads compilation. Alright. Here. The very bad Wii U ads compilation. Thank goodness somebody compiled it. That's the internet for you. The answer is alright. The answer would see, that's the problem. See, because that's the main problem. Because they needed to explain what the Wii U was. All the adults, all the parents, and even the gamers themselves all thought that that was an add-on. That the gamepad was another peripheral device for the regular Wii. Nintendo failed to explain it was an entirely new console. That alone ruined the Wii U. So when people saw the Wii U and all those announcement trailers and everything, all they kept showing was the pad, but they didn't show the console. Especially at E3, they didn't show the console. They just raised the pad up and said, "This is the Wii U," and people was like, "What is it?" Then when they started showing it, because the Wii U was in similar design to the original Wii, they thought that was another upgrade of the regular Wii. It was horrible. Right off the gate, from word one, they screwed up. They screwed up royally. You know, they did not explain on the outset that the Wii U was an entirely new console. And people really thought that was an add-on to the old Wii. That was an extension. They royally effed up the marketing in such a horrible way. And then this doesn't even help. This doesn't even help.
We'll make this quick.
Panic time's dropping fast, people.
Pew!
Time to upgrade to Wii U.
See?
With Wii U,
You see what she said? Upgrade to Wii U. What does that mean to the parent? What does that mean to the parent? The kids are trying to tell their parents that they don't want a Wii anymore. They want the Wii U. Let's upgrade it. But the parents have no idea what that means when they look at these commercials. The kids don't even know what that means when they see this commercial. What did that mean, upgrade? Never. When the NES, when the Super Nintendo was coming out, they never said that was an upgrade to the NES. They said that was a whole new console with all new graphics and all new stuff. Same with the N64 and the GameCube. They said it was all new consoles. They never used the word upgrade in their marketing. And then on top of that, they're showing children. Okay, and here's a kid playing Super Mario. So rightfully, every adult imaginable think, "Oh, this is a kid's device this time around." I didn't even have to go far with this commercial. You know? When it comes to, when you do advertising, you gotta really pay attention to what you put on the screen. Because advertising is about messaging. And if you're showing children and a video game system, people are going to think, "Oh, it's for the children." People will always go by perception of what they see, and when the messaging is not clear, nobody's gonna understand what you're talking about. Wii U was dead on arrival, and Iwata's vision was completely ruined. Because, like you said, if they marketed the Wii U as they had done with the Switch, they had to first explain what the heck the Switch was. Okay? They had to explain what the Switch was, and they didn't do that. And the first thing they had to do was tell people it's a whole new console, not an upgrade. Because everybody was already in mind because of the internet that it was an upgrade. That it was a peripheral of the original Wii. Parents literally were buying buying a Wii thinking they were getting this Wii U and didn't realize they were getting the Wii console, the old Wii console. Yeah. Then yeah, if I was an investor, I would be pissed the F off. Especially with the way Richie Fils-Aimé announced the Wii U on that stage, and the way he said it and the way he spoke it. He didn't believe it. He didn't believe what he was saying. It was remarkable. Let's see. They have it right here. Where is it? Where's the reveal here? Oh no. Go back one. Yeah, here. Almost. Hold on. One more. His keynote speech. Where's his keynote speech? Here we go. Here's his keynote speech. It's horrible. It's horrible. Okay, here's his keynote speech. Let me zip over to when he announced the name. Oh no, this is the whole thing right here. All right, listen to how he says.
We knew the prevailing thought would be this. Yes, the game will probably still be right for all of us. But could it also be a perfect fit just for you? And the answer to that question is an emphatic absolutely. In fact, we're so convinced of it that we put that pronoun right in the name. So today, welcome to the world of Wii U.
Now, you see how he's talking? Compare that to the other times when he announced the Wii and the DS and the confidence. You know, there was confidence that when he announces new games and new consoles. You know what I'm saying? You could really tell. That he was really taking his time trying to emphasize what the Wii U is. He didn't do that with any of the other stuff. You know, he didn't do that with any of the announcements he made for the games. He said it with such great confidence and with and a sense of joy behind it. But here it was like he had to really sell it. He was really trying to sell that. You know, the name. Look how he said we added that pronoun. You know, so it's kind of like what? Yeah, he sounds sad giving the speech. You know. He sounded very sad giving that speech. It was like he couldn't believe it, and he was trying to figure out how he can express it, because that is not normal. I have seen his speeches. He doesn't talk like that. He doesn't sound like that when he announces games and such. You know, it was always with exuberance and confidence, and he had no confidence in what he was saying. And the second, and I watched it, you know, I watched it live, you know, saying when it was live, I was sitting down that TV, and when I saw that U fall down, I was like this. I literally did that. I knew they screwed up. They screwed that up royally. So that's why the Switch looks the way it does. That's why the Switch is the way it is. Okay? Because Nintendo royally effed up. They royally effed up. This is terrible packaging. Okay? This definitely looks like a preschooler game. This does not look like a Nintendo game, the way it's packaged for the Wii U. And Nintendo felt the burn. Who gave you my leapfrog? Who gave you my leapfrog, Yoshi? That's mine. That's mine. Man, they took my leapfrog. Yeah, that's why Nintendo has it the way it is, you know, and it worked. It worked. You know why? Because that reveal trailer showed only adults. That reveal trailer only showed adults. They were playing adult games like Skyrim and NBA 2K. And they also played family games like Mario, saying it's okay to play Mario as an adult. And you could bring your friends in on it. Same with Mario Kart. That's why Mario Kart has the sales it's got. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, a freaking Wii U port. A 12-year-old Wii U port with a $25 DLC, still clocking in at $60 for the base game. Has the $150 million 150 million sales it's got. All right. So yeah, Nintendo would have been crazy and stupid if they did not just make the Switch 2 an upgrade. Okay, just do like PlayStation 1 jump to PlayStation 2, and PlayStation 2 jump to PlayStation 3. Just increase the power. That's it. That's all Nintendo had to do at this point. Now they can increase the power. And they did. 4K at 60 frames per second. You know how many people pined just for that 60 frames per second on 4K? The PlayStation couldn't pull that off. The PlayStation 5 couldn't pull that off, and they had to do a Pro to get rid of the dip switches. And it still didn't do enough. Introducing the Switch U. Oh my god, if they had called it the Switch U, they would have been crucified. You would be hearing me screaming up to the lungs if they had put that U on there. And then on top of that, they managed to get 1080p up to 120 frames. This is what everybody was asking for. Everybody asked Nintendo to do this, and then they teamed up with Nvidia. And came up with a crazy architecture. With a crazy architecture that can legitimately play Split Fiction. Split Fiction came out 2 months ago on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series. I don't know if it's on Xbox Series. I don't know if it's an exclusive. The point is that it's an EA game on PS5. And that's on Switch 2. That was announced in the Nintendo Direct. Split Fiction, and it's coming out launch. It's coming out on launch. Street Fighter 6. It's only 2 years old, but it's still on PlayStation 5. Okay, it was a PlayStation 5 game, and on PC, Steam. That's on the Switch 2. And it's gonna come with the DLC, all the DLC. Years 1 and 2 DLC already inside the cartridge. Nintendo upgraded. They did it. Nintendo did it. They finally did it. And they put it all on a hybrid portable console. That's the holy freaking grail, to be able to play Street Fighter 6 current gen on the go. And that's the big problem. Just like you said, they just need to not be scummy, and that's the problem. They made Mario Kart World $80. My assessment after having watched the Direct, I feel like it's a $70 game. I feel like it's a $70 game for the content it has. It's definitely not $80. But they only responded to the $80 because their 12-year-old port of a Wii U game in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe they're still selling for $60 alongside that $25 DLC totaling $85 sold big. Anybody who bought a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe bought that DLC. And every dang YouTuber who's screaming, "I'm boycotting," did the same too. Okay? I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to name drop them. I don't need no stupid war with them. But my point is, you can find it. You can find it on YouTube. You'll find them. It's talking about the pricing. And you ask yourself, did they buy that 12-year-old Wii U port of Mario Kart 8 and the DLC? If the answer is yes, then what are they complaining about? What are they complaining about? You can pay $85. That's $5 more than Mario Kart World. If you're willing to pay $85, you can pay $80 for that. The regular consumer, the ones who are frugal, the ones who are responsible with their money, who don't like DLC, who are very anti-DLC, you know what I'm saying? I sympathize with them. I sympathize with them. Because I was there in the 90s when they were charging $70 for that Super Nintendo cartridge. $80 for that Super Nintendo cartridge. And some of those stores price gouged. Those mom and pop stores price gouged. Okay. And to see Nintendo going back to that hurt, really angers me. Hurt is the wrong word. It really angers me. Because I gotta live through that again. Even though I know that I myself should not even complain, since I too bought Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and the DLC, I do understand the anger of the pricing because I was there. I was there. I experienced that. Nintendo putting that stupid tutorial, instruction booklet, whatever the heck that welcome tour is behind a $10 paywall is scummy. That's a free thing, man. Yeah. No, it won't be ridiculous, actually. Now if they make DLC for Mario Kart World, that would be ridiculous. No, because Forza Motorsport is $60 and then they slap $50 extra in DLC. People are paying the DLC price for Street Fighter 6 combined with its $59.99 price point for the base game goes over $100. And people are buying it. People are paying for that. People are legitimately, forking their money over for it, and then they're going out there complaining about Mario Kart 8 being for $80. Yeah, exactly. $100 is too poor. Yeah. I only do it because I'm doing a live stream. You know what I'm saying? But if I was never doing this live stream, I would not be buying any of that stuff to begin with. I never picked up Mario Kart 8 Deluxe until I started doing live streaming. I never picked up MK8 Deluxe until I started doing live streaming. And I didn't start live streaming until 2021. I had the Switch in 2017. So for those 4 years, I never picked up Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I never even picked up Breath of the Wild because I had that on the Wii U. And I didn't even buy the DLC, Breath of the Wild DLC. Precisely. They aren't thinking about the normal consumers. They're not thinking about the normal consumers. The the people who do not have disposable income. That's why I'm mad at both ends. I'm mad at Nintendo for going back to their old ways, and I'm mad at the YouTubers for crying about something that they're willing to pay money for. And anybody else who has disposable income crying on the internet about that $80 price. So yeah, the Switch is bare bones. It's bare bones because they shot themselves in the foot. But now they have dominance in an untapped market. Valve is not making any headwaves. And they haven't announced a new Steam Deck, a Steam Deck 2. So Nintendo is giving everything everybody wants in terms of power, raw power. What the developers been asking for from Nintendo, which was raw power, because they know they can make money on a Nintendo console. They know it. They've always known it. They've known it since the 90s. They left Nintendo because they did not want to do cartridge. They made that very clear. They were not going to do cartridge on the N64. They wanted them to go discs. Because the companies wanted to make money too. And they've been waiting for Nintendo to get its act together. People don't realize this. The software, the proprietary output, whether it's CD or cartridge or anything, that needed to be in an area that the AAA and all the publishers and developers would be willing to go with, but they needed that raw power too. But because Nintendo spooked themselves regarding the CDs and the DVDs because of Hiroshi Yamauchi, he made it very clear that he hated CDs as a format. He hated the CD format. That's why they stayed on cartridge, and because they were making good money off of those cartridges, yeah, why would you want to give it up? But they got burned. They got burned on the N64. But now they have control of a market that Sony and Microsoft have not jumped into, and they put in the raw power that everybody's asked for. That's why I'm like, why is everybody complaining? Why is everybody complaining? You wanted the 4K. You told Nintendo you wanted 4K. You told Nintendo you wanted 1080. You wanted the 60 frames. Nintendo threw in the bonus of having HDR and up to 120 frames per second, and it's still not good enough for y'all? Who are you fooling here? Who are you fooling here? Nintendo worked with NVIDIA. Okay, that's one of the big top microprocessing companies there that worked with Microsoft and Sony. That teamed up with Microsoft and Sony. Alright? They finally tapped into them, Nintendo. Now, Metroid Prime 4 can be played at 1080p, 120 frames per second on the Switch 2. And you could play it on 4K at 60 frames per second. Metroid Prime 4. The game everybody's been screaming about for 7 freaking years because Nintendo only put a logo up and hyped everyone up and then had to switch a whole different developer because the developer wasn't doing the game right. Now it's not good enough all of a sudden? Now all of a sudden 450 is a bridge too far, but you were fine paying $500 for that PS5? The $50 difference? You're still trying to hold on to that Nintendo's one generation behind? Are you serious? None of these consoles do 4K 60 frames. Only specific games barely could do that. Sony had to create a PS5 Pro, to get rid of the dip switches in the base consoles, and they didn't even include the stupid disk drive. But Nintendo's wrong. Nintendo's wrong with the Switch 2. The price of the games, yeah, I agree they're wrong. But the console, are you serious? At $450, portability? It's 1080p on the portable 1080p 60 frames per second portable. When docked, you could go up to 4K. Portable, you could get 1080p 120 frames per second. And when docked, you get the 4K 60 frames per second. You all screamed for that for years. For 3 generations. For 3 freaking generations. You have been screaming for Nintendo to do it. Why? Because you wanted a console where you could play The Legend of Zelda alongside your Grand Theft Auto. That has always been the gamer's dream. All right. How many times have we all said as gamers, Wii 60 or PS Wii back in that day? I only needed a 360 and Nintendo Wii. I don't need the PS3, or I only need a PS3 and Nintendo Wii. That's it. How many times have you said that? How many times you all said that? From the YouTubers to the gamers, how many times you've all said that? Why? Because you wanted Nintendo games and those AAA games. But you all wanted it in one console, and that was why you were mad at Nintendo more so than anything else. Because they couldn't bother to build an engine to be able to bring those AAA developers in there. Alright? Now it happened. In a much more awesome way imaginable. Portable. Now it's portable. That you can dock and play on your big screen. And that's still not good enough. And it's at You know, are you really gamers? I'm sorry, I have to ask a question here. You know what I'm saying? A controversial question. Are you truly gamers? Are you truly gamers? You know, you sit down and chest thump that you're gamers and this and gamers and that. And now, you know, and call Nintendo to cater to the gamers and give everything you're looking for. And they finally oblige, put it on one of the most awesome structures, formats imaginable, portable, that could be docked. And it's not good enough. I said this before, and I said this again after that Nintendo Direct. Okay, that Wii U Direct. All Nintendo has to do, and why we haven't seen any announcements whatsoever, all Nintendo has to do is get Grand Theft Auto 6. Doesn't have to be exclusive. They don't have to make it exclusive. It could still be port. It could still be a port, multi-plat. They get Grand Theft Auto 6 on that Switch too. That's it. There's nothing Sony and Microsoft can do. Nothing. You think they are looking at prices and game sharing more than performance with the, which is the complete wrong way. Which is the complete wrong way. Yeah. Yo, Forsele, welcome. I hope I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. Oh, I'm sorry. You had the actual 3D compared to whatever the F that was. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't catch your other post, Mr. Penguin. Actual 3D compared to whatever the fuck was N64. That 2D 3D looks so weird. Yeah, you got blocked out on that. Sorry. Yeah, it was weird, but yeah. How you doing, for Shelly? You came in at a very interesting time. Oh, thank you, Mr. Penguin. But yeah, that's why I'm really pissed off right now with everybody on both ends, Nintendo and the fans. Okay, because we finally could play PS5 level games on the Switch 2 alongside our Mario Karts, our Zeldas, our Metroid Primes. You know, we finally can do it. We're finally going to get to have all this, what we've all been waiting for, what we've all been wanting for. And it's still not good enough. I don't get it. Why? Because it doesn't have the Sony name on it? Too bad. I'm sorry. Too bad. Okay, it doesn't have Microsoft name, the Sony name, because you don't want the Nintendo kitty tag. Well, that's on you. We're not here. Nintendo doesn't care about your insecurities, and a lot of us gamers don't care about your insecurities either. Okay, we just want to play games, and we finally have a chance to be able to play our favorite AAA games alongside our Nintendo games on one single console, one single portable console. Alright, we're probably going to get to play Street Fighter 6 on a Nintendo console. We're going to get to play Street Fighter 6 on that console alongside our Smash Brothers Ultimate that we're going to that we can backwards compatible with. Alright? This is all nonsense. The internet is absolute nonsense, and Nintendo's out of their freaking minds. Going back to their 90s business practices. And the funny thing is, in all this, we're all still going to buy it. We're all still going to buy it. At some point in time, we're all going to buy it, and Nintendo's going to hit triple digit millions. They're going to hit the 100 million mark. It may not be like 150 million or 175 million, but they're definitely going to hit the 100 million mark. Because nobody's going to ignore the idea that they could end up that they could play games that are on PS5 on the Switch 2, alongside their favorite Nintendo games, alongside that Metro Prime 4, alongside that Zelda. And if Nintendo, and like I said, Rockstar has not announced Grand Theft Auto 6. Everybody's saying, where's the Grand Theft Auto 6? Where's the Grand Theft Auto 6? I'm telling you now. They're probably analyzing the Switch 2. They're probably checking to see if they can put it on there. That's why they're keeping their mouths shut. They're testing it out. Okay, they're getting the developer's kit and they're testing it out. And if they could fit that architecture can handle Grand Theft Auto 6, you're going to see that right next to the PS5 and Xbox logos when they make the official announcement. And then that's going to be the end of Sony and Microsoft. Unless, of course, Sony or Microsoft can convince Rockstar to make it exclusive to their consoles. Because that's the only way they'll beat Nintendo. That's the only way they're going to beat Nintendo is if they get Grand Theft Auto 6 exclusively. And considering that the Bloodborne 2, the quote-unquote Bloodborne 2 game, the Dust Bloods, is going to be exclusive on the Switch 2, and that's a current-gen game, that's going to be a new-gen game. That is not an old-gen game. That's a new-gen game. And Nintendo has it exclusively on the Switch 2. That's a shot across the bow to Sony and Microsoft that they can do it. They got the engine to do it. That Switch 2 has the engine. And if Rockstar is convinced that Grand Theft Auto 6 can be done on that Switch 2, they'll put it on there because they want those Nintendo sales. And Nintendo will win. Sony and Microsoft will be scrambling to make hybrid consoles, and they will be too damn late. No, they're not gonna go exclusive. Rockstar's not gonna. Well, true. They won't go exclusive, but Sony and Microsoft will put in as many amount of money as they can to get that exclusivity. Because remember, Rockstar, may have multiplayer with Microsoft and Sony systems, but they never went to Nintendo until now with the Switch, with that Grand Theft Auto trilogy. Because they wanted that Nintendo bucks. They wanted those Nintendo dollars. That's why they moved that's why they were able to port over the Grand Theft Auto trilogy. They were convinced after seeing Doom, Wolfenstein 3D. Their LA Noir was handled well. They were convinced. But the architecture was not strong enough for Grand Theft Auto 5. Now the Switch 2 architecture is strong enough for Grand Theft Auto 5, and they could put that on there right now at launch day. They could do that on launch day. They have no excuses. So they're going to be testing that out. That's why they're keeping mum. And Sony and Microsoft are going to fight to not let that get on that Nintendo system because they know people are going to want portable Grand Theft Auto 6. They're going to want Grand Theft Auto 6 on the go alongside their Metro Prime 4 and Zeldas. And the people will, let me put it like this. Sony, them Sony fanboys, they could put it on and actually run it 4K, which there isn't that option on Xbox nor PS5 yet, only PC. Precisely, Mr. Penguin. Precisely. And not only that, but listen to how this sounds. Okay? Sony fanboy. Yeah, man. I got the PlayStation 5. I'm playing Madden. I'm playing Grand Theft Auto 6. It's awesome. It's all cool. What you got? I have the Switch 2. I'm playing Zelda, Mario Kart, Grand Theft Auto 6, and Madden. What's the response? They can't say Nintendo's kidding if Grand Theft Auto 6 is on the freaking Switch 2. Yeah. What do you think the Sony fanboys cannot do the Nintendo's kitty talk anymore? It won't hold water. It'll never hold water. They'll just be called Sony fanboys and get pushed to the curb. People are going to sit there and say, I want Grand Theft Auto 6 portable. And the only way they'll get it portable is either through the Steam Deck or through the Switch. And they're going to go to the Switch because they want the Mario Karts and the Metroid Primes alongside it. There's no way Rockstar is going to pass up Nintendo the Switch 2. There's no way they're going to pass that up, especially since it can run 4K 60 frames with no problem docked. They've been looking for that. They don't need to go through jujitsu, through some crazy jujitsu with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox. They'll still do it. They'll still do it. Yeah, you're right, PS5. But you still have cartridges, Switch. Well, you don't even have a disc drive anymore, so. Yeah. This legitimately is Nintendo for Nintendo to lose, and right now they're botching up. That Mario Kart World should have been $70. It's borderline, but people would have tolerated it. They tolerated Tears of the Kingdom. They would have tolerated it only because of what the console itself was bringing to the table. But because they decided to go 80 and then put that welcome tour, whatever that is, welcome tour is behind a $10 paywall. Yeah, it pissed people off, and rightfully so. It's just that the wrong people who are getting pissed off at it. And drowning out the right people should be pissed off about it. Oh man, but yeah, Nintendo can win this, and I'm convinced that it's all going to hinge down to Grand Theft Auto 6. And Rockstar, I've no doubt, are getting the dev kit, and they're going to go through all the nooks and crannies to see if that can fit. If they get Grand Theft, it's not even so much that they'll be unstoppable, it's that they'll be unbeatable if they get Grand Theft Auto 6 on the Switch 2. If Rockstar can pull it off and put that on there and boast that 4K 60 frames per second, Nintendo will be unbeatable. They will instantaneously win the generation. There's no way, no gamer is going to say no to the Switch 2 when they could play Grand Theft Auto 6 portably. Valve is the only one that could truly challenge Nintendo, and they're not putting in the effort right now. They're either on a wait and see mode, because keep in mind they do have the architecture. They do have the architecture and the means to do the Steam Deck 2. They do, no doubt. And they're probably on a wait and see mode, but I think it's a bad idea to do a wait and see mode, because they're the only ones that could get the because they don't need to make the because they don't need to they make enough on PC. Precisely they don't have to exert themselves. And we all know Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be on PC hands down. You know what I'm saying? And Valve's going to have access to that, most definitely. So it's just going to come down to people saying, I only need a Switch and a PC. I only need a Switch 2 and a PC. Sony and Microsoft will be an afterthought. They're all going to say the same thing. I can play Grand Theft Auto 6 on the Switch 2. But it's Nintendo's to lose at this point. If the second... it's Nintendo's to lose at this point. And they're screwing up right now. They got to course correct. They got to course correct those software prices. And they need to make that welcome to our free pack-in. Or at least a free download. Yeah. This is going to be some crazy times, man. This is going to be a crazy generation. And people don't realize it. They're still too wrapped up in their, either in their fanboyism or their biases. You know, yeah, maybe that's why Xbox is getting scared and looking at PC options instead. Yeah. Well, it's also, and keep in mind, they've been talking with Nintendo. It is not a secret. They have publicly said they've been talking with Nintendo, and they have put those Microsoft exclusive games on Nintendo, and they even put some of their Rareware games on Nintendo. They let some of their Rareware games go on because they own Rareware now. Microsoft, they got total ownership of that, and they did put some of those games on Nintendo. You know, the Ori games was exclusively a Microsoft game. I think Microsoft had a hand in it, and they're like, go ahead, take it. They did the same with Cuphead. And now Cuphead is on Smash Brothers with the Mii the Mii costume as a Mii costume. So that's pretty telling what Microsoft thinks of the situation in hand. Microsoft is not might not even attempt. Yeah, I can't wait to see what Nintendo will do. Because holy hell, if they screw this up, it will be an unmitigated disaster, and not only will nobody trust them again, but Nintendo will not be able to do another console again. This is theirs to lose. The PS systems is all Sony has. They will be underwater if they can't compete. Exactly. And the thing that's gonna be so frightening is that if the competition dies, and Nintendo gets that monopoly again, everybody's screwed. Microsoft has a bunch, so they won't die. No, Microsoft has Game Pass, and they tied that to the PCs. I know because I have Minecraft, and I still had the old Mojang account, and because Microsoft bought it, they updated my Mojang account to their Game Pass. So now I have a Game Pass right off the PC. And I felt, and I was like, okay, well, since that's the case, I see no need to buy an Xbox. I could play. I could go to Game Pass and get it on my PC. And I went out of my way and bought my first ever Xbox controller for my PC. I don't have an Xbox whatsoever. Never once have I ever bought an Xbox. This is my first ever Xbox product, and I play it for the PC. I play it on the PC. And since I officially have a Game Pass account, thanks to my Mojang account, I can always go on the Game Pass and get the game and put it on the PC. I have no incentive. And Microsoft understood this. That's why they leaned in. And it was smart of them to lean in because, the majority of people have a PC. Mac still has a good audience, but they don't have the Xbox. They don't have the Game Pass. So, yeah. Nintendo has the lead. Has the lead, and nobody's is paying attention to that. They're too busy fixated on the prices. Mac is for teachers, divorced dads. That's hilarious. Yeah. Nobody's paying attention to how much of a lead Nintendo has right now. How much of an edge Nintendo legitimately has. They're too fixated on the pricing, which is fine, but they really need to pay attention to what's happening here, because once that game launches in June, once that system launches in June, and we get that first Switch 2 Direct, yeah, once we get that Switch 2 Direct in September for the holiday season. I aim to please. Yeah. It's not that hard because, like I said, you just gotta, it's very hard. No, I'm not gonna lie. It's very hard. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody has a strong business acumen and strong antennas, paying attention or do history or read history. Not everybody could do that. You know what I'm saying? But I just wish that that the YouTubers would actually study, the industry and the history behind it. Before screaming boycott Nintendo, $80 boycott. You know what I mean? Don't buy it. There's actually a video that's titled "Do Not Buy a Switch 2." It's insane. It's insane. Meanwhile, Nintendo's just going the course because they don't care. They already got they got everything locked on. They got everything locked on. You know? All right. Wow. 8.5 hour stream. I haven't done that since Evolution, Evo last year when I covered Evo all weekend. Thank you very much, Mr. Penguin. This was a great talk, man. Unless consoles can do 8K, Switch is the best. Oh my gosh, 8K. We ain't there yet. But you know Switch 3 will do that. Switch 3 will do that. That's the Switch 3. Let's first focus on getting 4K, making 4K a thing. Because they've been trying to make 4K a thing for years, Sony and Microsoft, and Nintendo's going to make it a thing. That's what's going to be crazy. Is that Nintendo's going to be the one to make 4K a thing. They're going to do what Sony and Microsoft failed to do and make 4K a thing. Oh man. All right. So I got the research videos done. For next week's YouTube posting on the writing channel. Even to Nintendo pick up this, they always pick up the slack. It's true, they always pick up the slack. And what's and just to add to that, Mr. Penguin, what's hilarious is that they never got rid of the motion controls. They never got rid of the motion controls. They brought back the Kinect with that camera. They brought back the Kinect with that camera because they actually have games that do connect. The Jamboree DLC has the Kinect functionality where you see the person on the screen interacting with the thing, just like the Kinect. So they got the Kinect, and then they brought back the mouse from the Super Nintendo with Mario Paint. They've been bringing back all the bits and pieces that made the Nintendo consoles work, and they put it all into the Switch too. They even brought back a single cartridge multiplayer. That was done on the DS and 3DS, where you just only needed one cartridge. No, even GBA. GBA did that with Mario Kart Advance, where you only had one Mario Kart Advance cartridge in the GBA, and then you hooked up the 4 cords to the other 3, and everybody got to play Mario Kart off of one cartridge. They brought that back. They brought back a whole lot. They brought back a lot of the stuff that they made over the years and threw it all into the Switch too. Yes, we Super NES, Game Boy are getting 4K, and we can still play the GameCube controllers. We can still play the GameCube controllers on the Switch too. For let's see here, GameCube, Wii U, Switch, and now Switch 2 for 5 generations now. We're still on the GameCube controller. We're still playing the GameCube controller. 5 straight generations. That's how great the GameCube was, and the GameCube controller was designed. I don't know if you can see. Oh man. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That was hilarious. And nobody has seen it because they're too blind listening to the rabble rousers who are not even paying attention to what's going on with Nintendo. You know, they don't. They got their blinders up too easily. But once more, just to make it very clear, I'm not in any rush to get the Switch 2, and I see it now. Yeah, but let me just make it very clear. For me personally, I'm not in a rush to get the Switch 2. The Switch, in and of itself, is still an excellent system. It's a very excellently built and designed system, and I have a whole backlog of Switch games, both digital and physical, to play through. And even though the Switch 2 is backwards compatible, my feeling is that the library is not big enough on the Switch 2 to justify not big right now. If I play through those games and be done with them and get stuck on a 2-month lull, 2 to 3 month lull, I'm going to be playing my Switch 1 games on the Switch 2, and it's going to get me saying, well, Why did I could have been playing this on? Why did I spend $4.50 when I could have been playing my Switch One games on the regular Switch that I have already? That's the mentality I have. The library is still not big enough yet for me to scoop it up and play, or else I'm gonna be stuck playing backwards compatibility, and I'm gonna be like, well, I just spent $4.50. Sure, yeah, it's got all the upgrades and everything, but I got the Switch One for my Switch games, and playing the Switch 2 to play Switch 1 games is kind of lame. I'm playing the Switch 2 to play the Switch 2 games alongside my Switch 1 games. Saying I need the best of both worlds, and if I can't get that with a small library on launch date, it's not worth it at the time. I can wait. So, you was very tight on not getting it, but now you really want it, but you'll wait till it's cheaper. Yeah, exactly. We all know Nintendo's gonna do a freaking Switch 2 Lite. Come on, they're gonna have an OLED version and a Switch 2 Lite. Yeah, give it a year or two. Let the library grow a bit. Let the library grow a bit. Hell, they might announce OLED next year for all we know. The OLED edition. Sure, it'll be $500, but people were willing to pay $500 for that PS5. So, yeah, it's LCD right now. The standard this standard edition is LCD. Then that's why I'm like, people are like, oh, it's not OLED. I'm like, they're gonna make an OLED edition, charge $500 for it, just like they did with Switch One, and we're gonna have a Switch Lite for $400. They're gonna do it again. Same. It worked. It worked. The three tiers worked. Nintendo will do it again. So we're good to go. My God, 6:30 a.m. Woo, 8.5 hours. Thank you everybody who joined me. And really, this was like a 7-hour rant at this point. Switch One OLED is still $400, yet people are complaining about $450. Seriously, for Switch 2, yeah. Seriously, it's $50 for 4K, 60 frames per second, 1080p, 120 frame per second system that can actually play Split Fiction, PS5 game, and Switch and Street Fighter 6, a PC Switch PS5 game. Go fig.